welcome to this Videos on Frontier video. My name is Jay Wakefield, and I would like to talk to you all a wee bit about the Scottish referendum. Now, for those of you who follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and those who've seen some of my later YouTube videos, you'll already know which way I'm voting. But in this video, I plan to not only tell the rest of you which way I'm voting, but also why I'm voting in the way that I'm voting. So, I am actually going to be voting for Scottish independence. And there's quite a few reasons for that.
Mail.
Please excuse me, I've got mail. That is not one of the reasons I plan to vote for independence, by the way. I'm actually voting for independence because, well, first and foremost, I feel that at the moment Britain is taking a very frightening lurch to the right. The May 2014 elections have told us that a lot of people have been voting in favour of the UK Independence Party. Now, for those of you who don't know, the UK Independence Party is, I think their main manifesto really is to get out of the European Union. But not only that, they are extremely racist sometimes, and more than one member has actually suggested something along the lines of people with disabilities being basically put down due to well, one of their candidates said that people with disabilities should be put down. Children should be put down because they're too much of a burden on the state. And another one of their members has suggested mandatory abortions for women whose children are suspected of having certain disabilities because they're a burden on the state. But not only that, you know, they're very much against, you know, foreign aid, and they certainly seem to be very much against immigration in Britain. So it's basically a lot like the British National Party, who are basically the National Front, really, and they're pretty bad. But there's also other reasons. Now, while I would never advise against voting for independence for a country based on another country's, based on the country that they're partnered with, based on the politics of that country at the time, based on the government that may or may not be in at the time. Certainly with the UK, it seems that, well, in 2010, actually, what the hell happened in 2010 in the election? Nobody really knows. Labour won by a very, 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 very small margin. Unfortunately, Gordon Brown had to resign because of that for some reason, and because he couldn't find, because, well, they would have had to form a coalition government. Unfortunately, because Gordon Brown resigned, the Conservatives got into government with the Liberal Democrats. Now, I've always been a Liberal Democrat. You know, I would have voted Liberal Democrat normally. In fact, I did in 2010. What I didn't expect them to do was to completely lose all their principles to get in bed with the Tory party. I think the Liberal Democrats chose to actually go into the coalition with the Tory party because they looked like the more powerful party. So, on they went. And of course, the Tory party. Tories, for those of you who don't know, Tory is kind of a nickname for Conservative, as a member of the Conservative and Unionist Party of the UK. It's a bit like in America how the Republicans are called the GOP, or Grand Old Party. You know, that sort of thing. So, the Conservative Party did what the Conservative Party normally does best, and just made random cuts in whichever direction without giving a damn who it hurt and how badly it hurt them. So, because we were in recession, there were, austerity cuts that were actually started by New Labour in 2008. The Conservatives just made them a lot tougher. They've, and people with disabilities have borne the brunt. Now, when I was saying that you can't actually vote for independence based on, who happens to be in government at the time, that was actually something that someone else told me. And yes, it still stands true. Because while a lot of these austerity measures are happening under the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, New Labour started a lot of these cuts when they were in, or they set the wheels in motion. I'm going to talk a lot about disability benefits and people with disabilities, because this is what I know best. And it's basically, and of course this is a video about why I'm voting yes, not why Fred Bloggs is voting yes, or why Farmer Giles is voting no. Disability is something I know. Obviously, I have multiple disabilities, plus I also volunteer for a disability charity. So I know, I get to know things about, how it hits. I get to know how it hits, other people or other organisations, because, we're always at the forefront of the news. Well, we're always on top of the news about these sort of things at the charity. But, okay, at the moment, as it stands in the UK, people who have had disabilities have been getting, if you're classed as disabled, you could be entitled to a benefit called Disability Living Allowance, or DLA for short. And what that would do is that would actually help you try to cover some of the costs, some of the extra costs which are incurred through disability. So that could be things like you might need a carer, or you might need transport, something like that. Now, the UK government, the Labour Party, when they were in government, they actually set out a white paper, sometime I believe it was in actually they set out a green paper in 2008, outlining the replacement of DLA. Unfortunately, the Conservative government have taken that and run with it. DLA is now to be replaced by Personal Independence Payment, or PIP, or PIP. And PIP has been designed, really, not to make sure the people who need it most get it, as a politician will tell you. What it's been designed to do is to save money. That is it. It's not been designed to be enhanced or help people or get more money where it's needed. No, nothing like that. Literally, all it's meant to do is to save money. How do you save money on benefits bills? You actually reduce the eligibility criteria for said benefits. And this is exactly what they have done. They've actually, I'm going to take, for example, one big thing that they've done. Walking, or being able to claim for higher rate mobility. Because Disability Living Allowance was paid in two parts, and I'm guessing PIP will be as well. Two parts for Disability Living Allowance. You've got your care component, and you have your mobility component. The care component can be paid either lower rate, which is I think £20 something a week, medium rate, which is around 40, or higher rate, which is I think about 60 or 80 or something, I can't mind. And to get that, to qualify for the high rate of care, you've literally, I think, got to have carers around the clock. And then the mobility, you've got lower rate or high rate. You don't have a mid rate for mobility. Now, to qualify for the high rate of mobility, well, those who are on the higher rate of mobility, they could be entitled to a free car through Motability. So instead of getting paid this money into your bank account, the mobility component of your DLA would actually go towards getting a car. Now, originally, when this came out, the cars that you would get were actually, very, very tiny things, and much as I hate to say the name, they were dubbed invalid carriages. And I hate the term invalid. Oh, because if you write it down on paper, it's just invalid. You mean to tell me that someone with disabilities is just invalid as a person? No. But that's off the beaten track there. But as times went on, people have actually been able to get regular cars on Motability. Now, yes, you can get some for free, but they are kind of still the smaller ones. Things like I would say something like a Vauxhall Corsa, which, contrary to my Asperger challenge video, Corsas are driven by as many different types of people as any other car. So please, let us not hate the poor wee Corsa, because it's just a good little car that just wants to please everyone that it can. And let that be an end to any Corsa bashing. And I quite like the modern Corsa, actually. But you can also go for bigger cars, but you do have to put money down for that. So if you want something like, for example, in 2008, to get a Vauxhall Astra Estate, so it's a bigger car up from the Corsa, the Estate version, or in America the wagon version of the Astra, that would have actually cost you an extra £700. Now you get a new car every 3 years, as long as you're still entitled. But if you've paid down that money, you then actually have to have, pay. Obviously, if you want another Astra Estate, you have to pay the same again. And if you need any adaptations done to your car, I don't always believe that that's always paid for. I think you might actually have to find the money to pay for those yourself. So, for example, I had a friend who did have an Astra Estate, and she has hand controls on it. But I could be misquoting, but I think while she got the car, I think she may have had to pay for the hand controls to be installed into the car, and then of course you've got to pay to get them removed again. When you hand the car back over. But and to be able to qualify for the higher rate of DLA, which would get you your Motability car, or in the case of someone who is blind, get a Motability car for a named driver to drive, I think you only had to be able to walk, about 200 metres. That's not too far, but it's a pure trek compared to what the distance is for PIP. Considering I got butthurt when it was going to be 50 metres. No. You don't have to be able to walk 50 metres to not qualify for the Motability rate on PIP. If the higher rate component, if you can walk 20 metres or above, that's 20 metres, you are deemed ineligible for the high rate of mobility. That has got a lot of people scared. There's a lot of people who can walk 20 metres unaided and end up in pain. And they will make you do that at the test. They do actually push you. They don't care. The assessors, they just make you, if something's hard to do, they make you try and do it anyway, just so they can find you fit. You'll lose, if, let's say you had a Motability car, you're able to do the 20 metres, you lose your car, which invariably means you're going to lose your independence. And a lot of people do hold down jobs, so you're going to lose that as well because you suddenly can't get to it. And that's actually going to make for a lot more people on job seekers on the dole or what have you, on welfare. And they're not going to be able to actually get out and work because they're going to be unable to go. And then the government are going to be saying, well, you were in a job before, So you're obviously fit to work. And that's the next thing that I'm going to come on to. Time was when somebody, I would like to say that DLA, Disability Living Allowance, and PIP are in-work benefits. You get them whether you work or you don't. Basically, it's to pay for extra costs, like I said, that are invoked by disability. Time was, if you couldn't actually work, you would get something called incapacity benefit. And that was basically paid to those people who were deemed too ill to work. Now, the government reckoned that everyone and their dog seems to have been on incapacity benefit, so they changed all that. And what they went for instead, and what New Labour went for instead, should I say, was a system called Employment and Support Allowance. Now, again, this was designed with the intention of saving money, getting people off of benefits who they deemed fit to work, obviously. You know, not who we deemed or who the dog deems or whatever, it's who they deem to be fit to work. Sorry about that, I just had to move my web camera there so I was more in the centre of the screen. So, with that, they had to obviously move people off of incapacity benefit, and the new claimants, they would have to move on to ESA. But wait, all these people need tested. All these people need seen by a medical doctor to determine their eligibility to work. Now, you'd think that you would go to your normal doctor, right? You know, you go to your normal doctor, say, look, I've been feeling ill, and you detail your illness. Your doctor, he is, let me think, what are they? Do they fix cars? No. Do they sell mobile phones? No. Are there baristas serving coffee? Do they drive a white van every day? They're doctors! They trained at university for years on end. They're doctors. They know you because they're your family doctor. They actually know you. They know your medical health. They know everything about, they know everything they need to know about your health. So you think you would go to your doctor. Your doctor would be able to determine whether you were or were not fit to work. Right? Because the doctor is there. He's supposed to make you feel better. He took the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. No. Apparently you don't go to your own doctor. No. You have to go to an assessment centre that's actually been run by, in the past, it's been run by a French IT firm. What? Sorry, I run an IT company. Do I know anything about medicine? No, I blooming well don't. Yeah, no, it was a French IT firm called Atos. And some say they were working to government targets. I believe this. And some say they weren't. But they were very nasty to some of the claimants. They, and some of the assessment centres, it was, they basically did anything to get people off of, sickness benefit, even if they weren't fit to work. I mean, okay, I understand. There's a couple of bad apples cheating the system. But not everyone is a cheat. But they, for example, were saying to people, oh, you managed to make it to the assessment centre, you don't need benefits. There was a case down in the south of England where a guy turns up for his assessment. He uses a wheelchair, so he needs to go up in the lift. Trouble is, they decide that a wheelchair user cannot use the lift because it poses a health and safety risk. How is he going to do his assessment? He's not going to be able to. Someone recently had a heart attack during a fitness to work assessment. A heart attack. They were declared fit to work because they were stripped of their benefits because they were, because they had a heart attack in the middle of the assessment and therefore could not complete it. Someone got stripped of their benefits because they couldn't turn up for their assessment. Would you like to know why they couldn't turn up for the assessment? Well, I'll tell you, even if you didn't want to know. They were in the hospital. And not just in the hospital, they were actually in a coma in the hospital. Now tell me, how on earth is someone in a coma supposed to get to an assessment centre to do a fitness to work test? Why is that even a thing? There's people who can't get out of their bed. They're being hounded by letters, for letters by the job centre. You should be searching for a job, you're obviously fit to work. And this government, the UK Conservative government, well, they've just basically sat back and let this happen and praised the whole thing as a success. In fact, they are kind of helping people to hate people with disabilities through their scroungers rhetoric. They're going on about scroungers. During the Olympics, a politician said, I don't remember which one it was, there's two types of people with disabilities living in Britain at the moment. Those striving for gold at the London Olympics, and those those work-shy sharkers fleecing off of the state. And this was someone in government. I thought the government was supposed to help protect its fellow people. There's been a massive rise in disableist hate crime, thanks to the government and the media that's in their pocket, talking about scroungers and what have you. Unfortunately, in England, English and Scottish politics are going two very different ways. In Scotland, it's always been quite a liberal country. So, for example, we get free prescriptions. Scottish students get free tuition. People who are visually impaired can get across the country for free by the train or the bus. People with other disabilities can also get for free on the bus. Things like that. Now, I've lived in both England and Scotland, and I'm going to be completely honest here. Yes, I've got a lot of dear friends in England. And yes, it would be nice to see more of them. However, when I was living in England, I did not feel that you could live as an adult with disabilities in England. Seriously, you just can't do it. Because there seems to be... Well, let me take my experience, for example. When I was living in England, I'd been looking for a part-time job since I was 16 and a half. From 2006 to 2008, I'd had 3 interviews. In 2008, I managed to get a couple more, so, okay, 5 interviews. But I'd never been able to get a job. Nothing. Hee-haw. And because I was in foster care at the time, my leaving care worker said, it is suspicious how I was 20 years old and had not got a job. An employer would want to know why that was. And with disability discrimination, you can't police it. So I can't say, oh, well, I think it's disability discrimination. This worker then went on to say, if I had a business, would I give you your first chance? No, I wouldn't. And that's just how it seems to be. Whereas I moved to Aberdeen. I signed up for a job. Okay, it took some cajoling, but I was able to get, through what was Grampian Society for the Blind, I was able to actually get someone to help me through their job-focused team, their job club team. I had an employment advisor. She was amazingly fantastic. She drove with me to the place where I got a job. She liaised with them at length. And I went through the group interview stage, which was actually quite fun. And then I got an offer of a job. Okay, after I'd done the original job that I was hired for, I was I was messed about all over the shop, but I did get the job. First job, and it didn't necessarily matter that I was 20 years old and hadn't had anything before. People are just more helpful. I certainly found it at the university as well. Hull University, yes, they did some stuff, but Aberdeen University did more. They helped. I mean, here's how much they helped. Here's how much you were able to bend and break rules. When I was at school, it was difficult to even get use of a computer for exams. When I was at Aberdeen University, not only could I choose to use a computer in the exams, which made things easier, I could also choose which type of computer to use. At the time, I actually used an Apple Mac. I know some of you are going to like that. An Apple Mac, because at the time, it was the best sort of machine to have in the exams, because it had the magnification and it had all the software that I was using on my own Mac at the time. I was using, I needed access to a machine with Microsoft Word 2011 and Omnigraphel, which is a piece of plotting, a piece of graphics, kind of technical diagram creation software, a bit like Microsoft Visio. That, and they sorted that out for me. And this is just a very, 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 very tiny example of how Scotland differs, certainly from down south. And I'm not trying to say that England is completely 100% bad, because it isn't. There's nothing wrong with English people. Like, there's nothing wrong with people from any countries. It's just unfortunate that the politics are completely different to ours. And this goes back to why I can't advise on voting yes because of a particular government. No, you can't just say, oh, I want away from Scotland because I want away from the UK because I don't like the government that's in now. Unfortunately, the rest of the political parties that actually have power in Westminster are also going to the right. Now, they know that Tory policies, the punitive austerity measures, are hurting people, like the spare room subsidy tax. People in houses, let's say you've got a single person living in a 2-bedroomed house. In fact, I know someone who's living in a 2-bedroomed house, who's got it adapted for themselves with disabilities. The government want this person to pay, to actually lose some housing benefit because apparently the property is under-occupied. Not the fact that it's been adapted, and not the fact that you probably wouldn't actually be able to get a 1-bedroomed place. People with disabilities normally need a bigger place because of equipment and, other things. That, and as well, if you were a person in a 2-bedroom house and you'd been on the council housing list, you'd been trying to downsize, you're still going to be asked to pay for that. So you're still going to be asked to find more rent because you're under-occupying the house. These are measures that are hurting people, and yet all of the Westminster parties, they want to go ahead with them. So it doesn't matter who you vote, Labour, Conservative, Liberal, Democrat, because we've got first past the post, no one else really is going to get a look in. Because, it's in favour of the big parties. It's the only one who's really kind of managed to overtake anything recently in Westminster is, like I said, the UK Independence Party. They have actually got quite a preponderance of seats. So we're probably looking at we're probably looking in the 2015 election at a Conservative/UKIP coalition. And that's just going to be right going more right. And that's no good for anyone. And here's where Scotland gets involved. Scotland, in the last 30 years or so, from 79 to 97, we had a lot of years of Labour. We had 18 years of Labour. Conservative, sorry, Labour. What am I talking about? Let's try again. We had 18 years of Conservative. And then we got 13 years of New Labour. After that, we're right back with the Conservatives again. And nobody in Scotland, apart from maybe a number of people that I can maybe count on one hand, nobody votes Conservative in Scotland. You know, there's for the Scottish Parliament, out of all the parliamentary, out of all of the MSPs that sit on the Scottish Parliament, member of Scottish Parliament, out of all of the MSPs, one is Conservative. Just one. And we have a slightly more efficient voting system, proportional representation. One Conservative. And yet we find ourselves subject to Conservative rule. Why is that? Now, as far as independence is concerned, a lot of people will probably be saying now, yeah, I mean, that's all very well and good, Jay, but how do you expect to fund yourself if you go independent? I don't know, but my cell phone does. And I'm reading this from a Scotland page. Oh, James. Oh, why did it do that? Sorry about that, the page kind of went away. I'll pull it back up now. So, for those of you who don't think that Scotland can make it on its own, here are some figures. Scotland represents just 8.3% of the population, and I'm actually quoting this from a guy called Mikey McManus, and he's posted this in the Vote Yes on September the 18th Facebook page. So all credit goes to him for this, what am I way to read. So, Scotland represents just 8.3% of the UK population. Remember that number, 8.3%, and we'll do the mathematics. Right, we have the following share of UK resources. 32% land area, 61% sea area, and just remember that because I'm going to come back to this. 90% surface fresh water. You can say that again, we've got the best water going. 65% North Sea natural gas production. 96.5% North Sea crude oil production. 47% open cast coal production. 81% coal reserves at sites not yet in production. 62% timber production, green tonnes. 46% total forest area, hectares. And it's not all just non-renewables. We have 92% hydroelectric production, 40% wind, wave and solar production, 60% fish landings, total by Scottish vessels, 55% fish landings, total from Scottish waters. I actually teach an ex-fisherman who, well, yeah, obviously he was a Scottish fisherman. 30% beef herd, breeding stock. 20% sheep herd, breeding flock. 9% dairy herd. 10% pig herd. 15% cereal holdings, hectares. 20% potato holdings, all with 8.3% population. There are very few countries in the world that could rival Scotland's resources per head, and in such rich diversity, we absolutely, unequivocally, try that again. We absolutely, unequivocally can be an extremely successful independent country. And those kind of figures do speak for themselves, and, you know, I do believe those. And did you know also that we pay more per head in tax than they do down south? So, yeah, that is, that is certainly, something to think about. And do you remember me saying we had a lot of seawater in our land? Well, this is another reason why I think Scottish matters should be in Scottish hands. They've actually closed one of our... I think we have all but 3 lifeboat stations. They've closed, quite a lot of lifeboat stations, and they got rid of RAF Lookers and what have you. We've got the most water in the UK, and they think that we'll be fine with, I think, 3 lifeboat stations. Really? That's... I don't know where to get the maths from. That's just no right. I mean, that is a completely non-kind of disability-related reason to go yes. Because, I mean, I can't imagine that someone in London knows what it's like being in Scotland. I mean, I know a lot of people will be saying, yeah, but it's a really small place as the UK. Surely they would. But no. I mean, Scotland and England have 2 quite distinct cultures. So it is different. Things are different here. Unfortunately, if we do go no, Westminster will no doubt punish us. How do I know this? Well, take a look at the facts. Poll tax was introduced in Scotland, 1979. We were offered a chance for devolution. Did we take it? No, we didn't. What happened? Margaret Thatcher happened. And we didn't actually take on devolution or anything like that. And so we were basically punished. And the same's going to happen again. I mean, Westminster have even said it. They're saying they're going to offer us more powers if we vote no. Sorry. How do you get more powers by voting no? You don't. You don't. You'd have to vote yes to get more powers. It's like reverse psychology. Oh, don't vote yes, vote no. In actual fact, they're talking about a reduction in the Barnett formula. Apparently we get loads more than the rest of the UK, and I find that hard to believe. We get basically what we need to run the country. We don't get absolute millions, it's just that we use our money slightly differently. And they're going on about how, our self-indulgence, free scripts and what have you. I'm sorry, but why should we have to pay for things like, the London Railway link? It's not going to help us, but we're still going to have to pay for it. We had to pay millions in taxes. A lot of our tax money went to fund the 2012 Olympics in London. None of the UK government's tax went to actually help fund the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. These are all things that's happening. And going back to disability, the UK is under investigation for violations against the UN Convention of Human Rights for persons with disabilities because of the draconian austerity rules. And talking of human rights, Great Britain wants to repeal the Human Rights Act. They're already violating it. They want to replace it with a British Bill of Rights. And talking of things that sound like they came out of America, our National Health Service, one of the best healthcare services in the world. Okay, so you might have to wait to get a doctor's appointment. Okay, so you might actually, have to wait a while for an operation, which, to be honest, is bad. I'm not even gonna attempt to say otherwise. But it is still one of the best healthcare services going. They're selling it off to private companies, basically to the private mates, to their, billionaire friends. They're basically just going to run it as a business. They don't care about people's well-being. They're going to, spend as little as they can and make top dollar. You're going to get someone like, I don't know, Dr. Nick Riviera out of The Simpsons. It's like, so yeah, you need a wee operation for something, and then, it's like your doctor comes in and says, "Hey everybody, hey Dr. Nick." Sorry, that's copyright Fox, 20th Century Fox. Sorry lads. But okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but seriously, this is all happening. They're wanting, the benefits testing. That was privatised to Atos. Look where that got us. Lots of people have now died as a result of being found fit to work when they're in fact not fit to work. A lot of people, about, for those who were found fit to work, I think 60% of appeals were actually upheld by the court. The UK government have now made it so that you have to have a mandatory reconsideration period. So let's say you're ill, you can't work, you get a test, you get your fitness to work test, they find you fit to work, because they're finding a lot of people. And so many people have died as a result of these tests. You get found fit to work. What happens? You try and go and appeal. Now in the past you'd have been able to appeal, that would have been fine. Unfortunately, now you have to go through a mandatory reconsideration period. Now this doesn't have a time limit on it. There's no, it'll be done by such and such a time. No, it's an unlimited amount of time. So basically it could just be stuck on the back burner. What do you get then? You could apply for job seekers allowance, but in order to do so, you actually have to sign a contract saying that you are fit to work. Now if you sign that contract and you are genuinely ill, you are breaking the law and will be found out, pretty much, and if you're unable to work, you're unable to look for jobs, you'll face sanctions, you'll lose everything, you'll lose all, anything that you could be entitled to. If you are actually okay, and I understand, it's wanting to try and catch out people, but the only people it's really catching out is those that are actually in need. This is not how to take care of your poorest and most vulnerable in society. Britain has actually, gone from being one of the leading nations of disability rights legislation and what have you, to now being the first country to be investigated for severe violations of the Charter of Human Rights for persons with disabilities. To be honest, I do not wish to be a part of Britain anymore. I just don't. Well, I certainly couldn't join the army and fight for them, because I don't feel that, apart from a few friends, I really don't feel there's much worth defending. It's a sad way of saying it, but then again, I wouldn't probably be in the army anyway, because I'm mentally unfit to be so. Unfortunately, it's Scotland, if I was mentally well enough, probably would die for Scotland, but I wouldn't be mentally well enough. I can't even watch films where people die, for goodness sakes. But going back to what I was saying, nobody in Scotland would want this. We are so much more liberal. We're, on the 18th of September, we will have our power in our hands. For that one day, it will be like we will be a sovereign country in our own right, deciding our own fate. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep that opportunity? Are you going to make it so that we are our own country? Are you going to help us to actually take our place in the in the world as a sovereign nation, someone who is friendly to other countries? Because we are. We are friendly. We don't really want to cause any animosity to anyone in the world, and this brings me to another thing. We don't want to break away from the UK because we hate them. We just feel that Scottish independence It's time we were able to take matters into our own hands. Get our governments that we vote for every time. Oh yeah, and get rid of that big bloomin' nuke in the waters of the Clyde. Seriously, the Trident. What do we need that for? We don't need that. Nobody needs nukes. To quote my friend John Coate, you need to cut it out. You need to cut it out. Seriously. Nobody needs nuclear weapons. Why is the West able to go over to Iran and go, you've got a nuclear program going on. I don't like the direction. And yet have nukes in our countries. Nobody should have them. And we will be able to lead by example a country with no nuclear weapons. Because let's face it, all it is just like that, a big fist. Because the minute one country sets off their nukes, all the other countries are going to set off theirs. The world is just going to be rent apart. You don't need it. By buying nuclear weapons, what you're saying is, alright guys, I think I've got a bit of a problem with you. Whereas in Scotland, I'm pretty sure we'd be like, so lads, what can we do for you? What seems to be the problem? Let's see if we can sort it here. Why don't you come in? Here, a wee cup of tea. You fancy a wee fine piece as well? We'll sit and talk about this. See if we can get some plans drawn up as to how we're going to proceed with this. We're not a warring... Okay, apart from the centuries we've been battling England, okay, let's just forget about it. We're generally quite liberal, We're not... we can do this as Scottish people. We can make... we can make Scotland a successful country. We've got exports, but with Scottish money being put where it is needed the most, because we're going to hopefully... Okay, this may sound a bit naive, but, if we can elect these people, we could actually do more manufacturing. Let me show you something. This here is an IBM Model M keyboard. You know the sort? Clicky. Buckling springs. This example is from 1989, May 1989. This is 25 years old. Still going as well as it was the day that it rolled off the production line. Now, if I asked you where the keyboard was when it rolled off of the production line, you might probably think, maybe America. IBM is of course an American corporation. Maybe it rolled off a production line in Mexico or China. No. It rolled off the production line in Greenock, which is in Scotland on the Central Belt. And this is a fantastic keyboard, and they've made a lot of IBM computers. And who here, and when do you ever hear the phrase, I don't like this IBM I don't like this IBM computer, it's too unreliable? You never hear that phrase. Okay, some of the later Pentium 3 based ThinkPads are not the best in the world, but a lot of them are, a lot of IBM machines are extremely reliable. The Personal System 2 lines, the Aptivas, things like that, the PS1s, the IntelliStations, those that were made in Greenock have really been extremely reliable. You don't buy an unreliable IBM system. And if you do, you usually put it back and someone says, right, let's get you a new one. Which dafty built this? You, Jet, you're supposed to do that, right? Try again better next time. And that, to me, proves that we have it in us to do manufacturing. Okay, it's not done... Okay, Lenovo doesn't actually manufacture its products here anymore, but we can do it. We have the power, and we will put it to good use. Pay people a living wage. How can we do this? Germany's car industry managers, they pay people a living wage, and yet, okay, they're a bit expensive, but they're not ridiculously so. People drive German cars all the time. So, there is room to be a liberal nation, as Scotland is. And I'm going to tell you now, only yes can get us there. Because if we vote no, we are saying yes to more austerity, we're saying yes to the poorest and most vulnerable in society being treated like dirt. We are saying yes to big businesses and multi-billionaires evading taxes that they are due. We're saying yes to things like Trident. We're saying yes to the privatisation of the NHS that actually keeps people healthy. And I don't know how many of you know this, but healthy people are more likely to be able to work and work in a productive way if they are well than someone who is unwell. So the way to make people well is to be able to offer them free healthcare and not just make it a preserve of the rich. You'd also be saying yes to, pressure for Scotland to actually charge students for their tuition fees, which means fewer people at university, fewer innovators. You'd be saying yes to the abolition of the Human Rights Act. We don't need this. We've had enough of this. And I certainly don't like the direction. Which is why I will be voting yes on September the 18th. And I urge all of you to do so as well. Obviously it is your choice, and I respect that. But for me personally, I honestly feel that we can do better with an independent Scotland. All of our human rights in England are being auctioned off one by Westminster. Look at police kettling. Look at the disability demonstrations in London. There was about 9 people there. 20 police officers. There was no need for all of that. And that's wasting taxpayers' money, sending millions of police out where they're not needed. Look at the rise in food banks. So many people have lost out. There's a lot of people that have actually died because they're being sanctioned, because they're being expected to look for work that isn't there. There was someone who was ill, who literally, he had all his meds in a fridge. They went off because he couldn't afford to keep the electricity meter topped up. There was someone who, got in a job centre sanction. He died. He was very underweight when he did die. There was a person a couple of years ago, an oldish, a middle-aged to older man. He had health problems. He was declared fit to work, so he kind of must have thought himself, oh, maybe I am. So he went out, did loads of stuff, had a heart attack, and died. There's the job centre ringing up families of those who've been deceased, going, why are they not coming into work? Why are they not coming into work? Why are they not coming in to look for jobs? And they're actually chasing. Let me just kind of take that and put it in a simple way. They're chasing dead people to look for jobs that aren't there. Dead people. People who've died thanks to the draconian cuts who fall the most on the most vulnerable people in society. If we vote no, we're just going to get more of this. Britain is just going to become a place of... It's not going to be a very nice place to live. And people are going to get hungry. I mean, there's already higher crime because people are actually forced to go and steal food from shops to feed their kids. People are just going to get angry and start committing more crimes, and then the police are going to get more militant, and then it's just going to all... It's all just going to escalate very quickly and very badly. So, to be honest, I think the best way of sorting this out in a non-violent, very peaceful manner is to vote yes to independence. It is the best thing to do. Anyway, I know that was quite a long-winded video, but I'd like to thank you all for those who have actually watched it and you know, stayed there for the full video. But thank you very much for watching this video. If you like what I do, please feel free to subscribe. Also feel free to like us on Facebook. Thank you for watching my video though, and I hope you'll join me for my next one. Cheery bye.